supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner. I hope you are well and having a wonderful week. As always, this is the podcast designed to support you, the dog owner, in your dog parenting journey and hopefully make you see the world through your dog's eyes and consider things from a different perspective. As you will have heard in previous episodes, our new Pawcademy online hub will be launching soon. Make sure you follow the link in the description. So this week, this episode, we are going to be talking about boredom. Well, the phrase, I'm bored, my dog is bored. It's one of the things that I hear quite a lot, and it's one of the things that really winds me up because it's basically us excusing what our dog is doing and just simply finding a quick solution without actually considering what's actually going on. Now, the phrase I'm bored is one that I grew up with because I always wanted to be doing something. I was a child that had to be busy and didn't like not doing anything. So my mum always used to joke that it was my catchphrase, I'm bored, what can I do? I'm bored. So it's something that I can sort of resonate with. But dogs and boredom, it's not something we necessarily associate with. We have a habit of anthropomorphizing dogs, which is basically where we put human emotions into our dogs. So for example, we say, oh, my dog's jealous, my dog's this, my dog's that, and we put our human emotions into their situations, which, as you'll know if you've been listening to the podcast before, I'm sure we've mentioned it before, dogs have an emotional sort of capacity of roughly like a 2-year-old. So they have the ability to feel the big emotions, happiness, sadness, excitement, etc. But the more deeper emotional, mature emotions, they don't feel because they simply aren't capable of doing so. So for example, spitefulness, jealousy, guilt, etc. They don't feel those. They don't have capacity for them. They live in quite a simple, does this work, does this not sort of state. And their emotions can be quite sort of basic in that way. Of course, they feel emotions, but they are very basic emotions. So when I hear the phrase I'm bored, sometimes it's right. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not. So one of the times we can sort of liken that our dog can be bored is when they're left home alone and they start destroying stuff. So there's many reasons for that, which we can go into. But obviously some dogs will start destroying things because they are actually suffering from separation anxiety. Other dogs will simply be going, I'm on my own, I've got nothing to do. Well, I'll just chew up the chair leg, for example. And yes, that can be classed as boredom. Not always. Say sometimes there's for other reasons for it. But that is one of the things that we can say, yeah, it's probably a bit of boredom. There's nothing to do here. My needs haven't been satisfied before I've been left alone. I've got nothing to do, and then I'll just find myself a job. But a phrase we hear in dog training classes quite often is, my dog's bored. And we tend to hear it and we tend to say it when our dog isn't doing what we'd like them to do. Maybe as an excuse, I don't know. But it's a topic I'd like to explore because personally, as a trainer who has worked very hard to build a dog training school, to develop programs, to help dogs, to teach them new skills, when a client says, my dog is bored, it's like a dagger to the heart. If you've ever thought it, I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to sort of make you feel bad, but it is like it hurts when you say my dog is bored, because again, I think it's something that we say when our dog isn't doing what we'd like them to do as an excuse, rather than looking below the surface and going, why are they not actually performing? And then we tend to think then, oh, well, this training's rubbish because my dog's bored. But actually a lot more is going on. So the times I tend to see it are with puppies, when they don't want to do something, when dogs have done something 2 or 3 times and then they go, can't do it, don't want to do it anymore. And we tend to go, well, they are bored. 99.9% of the time, they're not bored. Dogs don't have to always be doing big, fancy, impressive stuff. A lot of the time we hear it again when people think their dog is capable of doing a lot more than what we're doing in class. But there's a wonderful saying, and it's basically that a novice trainer wants to work at an intermediate level. An intermediate trainer wants to work at an expert level, but an expert trainer wants to work at the beginner level. And the idea behind that is when you are new to training and you're new to handling, you always want to do the bigger, better stuff. You want to work a bit harder. You want to do a bit more. When you've got the idea of it, you want to do you want to be the expert. You want to work at the top level possible. But when you actually are a very experienced, knowledgeable, expert handler, you recognize how important those foundations are, and you are happy to go back and repeat those foundations over and over and over and over again to iron out any blips and any problems and make sure those foundations are absolutely solid. Because it goes back to that wonderful analogy of building a house, we need strong foundations, otherwise our house will fall down. Same goes for dog training. We need solid foundations, solid skills that may seem basic and may seem a little bit, they're a bit boring, but they set the base foundation for everything else you do with your dog. So the foundations are really important. So handlers who are working at a high standard, an expert standard, want to go back and look at those basics. So it's something we see quite commonly with beginner trainers, that they want to just keep pushing on. So puppies, for example, who are learning something new, they are often going to do it a handful of times and then stop and start being silly, start tugging on the lead, start sniffing, laying down and going to sleep. Why? Not because they're bored, because their brain is hurting. We don't give enough credit for how tiring training is. So when your dog, any dog, comes to a training class, on the outside you may go, well, this isn't really that difficult. You're just in a field with some dogs. But they're in a field within a dogs with lots of dogs potentially, lots of distractions, lots of excitement, lots of, there's all loads of dogs here, but I can't go and say hello to them. I need to keep all these emotions inside. That naturally is like going to bubble and fizzle away inside them on the sort of, you're not even going to see it happening. Then we're going, right, now you need to use your brain. And we're trying to teach them new things, despite them already going, there's all these dogs here I've got to ignore. There's new smells. There's so much going on. Naturally, when they're learning something new, their brain is going to hurt quite a bit after a while because it's being exercised. And just like us, if we're doing something taxing, we will always say, I'm just going to have a little break, walk away from it. I'll come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. We forget that our dogs need to do that too. So maybe when they've done things 4, 5, 6 times and then they go, can't do it anymore, and they start being silly or start not performing as well, it's actually that they need a break. They need that moment to chill, to forget about it, and then come back in 5 minutes with a fresh set of eyes to reinvigorated, ready to learn. Because those gaps between are often when they are processing the information, ready to sort of almost like get it into compartments in their head to go, right, I think I know what I'm doing, before we then have another go. So often it's seen as being bored, but it's actually having a break. It's really important. The other thing we see, another time we see it, is when we're doing something like a sport and people think that their dog is better than what we're doing. So again, that comes down to working on the foundations. Working on foundations over and over again is spot on. It's going to make the foundations stronger so that we can push on and do more. So sometimes it's when people actually are going, do I have to do this? I don't really enjoy this. And I'll say my dog's bored when actually it's you that's not enjoying it. And obviously, again, who is dog training for? It's not, yes, of course it's for us. It's for us to get the benefits, but it's about your dog having fun and your dog enjoying something. There are so many sports out there and activities you can do with your dog, and you may like a particular one, but if your dog doesn't like it, what's the point? So for example, like fun agility is like mini agility. And we do it in classes every now and again for a little bit of fun. One of my dogs just looks at me and goes, "You're fucking kidding. I don't want to do this. This is shit. I hate it." And obviously I could go, "Well, no, because, it's fun agility. Let's keep doing it." He hates it. He's like, "Oh, it's just too much energy." It's not his bag. It's not something he enjoys. Yes, I may go, "God, this is really fun." But if he's not enjoying it, what's the point? And again, I could say, my dog's bored of this. He doesn't want, but actually it's him sort of expressing his opinion and saying, "I do not enjoy this activity. Therefore, why would I force him to do it?" So sometimes we have to recognise that what we want and what our dogs want are very, very, very different. So the phrase "I'm bored," I say, comes out with when our dog doesn't behave. So when they start being silly, that is generally overexcitement and over arousal from the environment, from the fact their brain is hurting. And we go, "Well, let's do something else now." But actually, it's about them learning to manage emotions and learn to manage that over arousal and learn what to do with it. So short, sharp bursts of training are really important, and especially so with your adolescent age, because adolescence, as we know, is a challenging age and stage where they don't have as much stamina, they don't have as much focus, and they're likely to need more regular breaks. So when they start we've had a podcast episode on this before, a few weeks ago, but when they do start tugging on the lead or, starting to nip and bite you, it's not boredom. It's, "I am overstimulated. My brain hurts. I need a rest and I need to be shown what to do when I feel this way." So it's actually an opportunity to teach them how to manage these big emotions they're feeling and give them a brain break before we then tackle something else. Again, another thing is that they will start to lay down and they go, "I've done it a few times. Now I'm going to lay down and sleep." That's fine. Every dog will have a different level of motivation. Again, we've heard about my dogs before. One of mine would repeat something 1,000 times in a row and be like, "Can we do it again?" Another will go, "I've done it 3 times. Can I have a rest now? That's enough." Every dog will have a different level of stamina. And learning what your dog's stamina is and then responding to it and working within that is really important. I know with my sort of less motivated dog who hasn't got a lot of stamina, he'll do it 2 or 3 times and then he'll go, "No, I'm done." And he needs a good few minutes break before we then come back and do it again. If in those few minutes I'm pressurising him to do more because I don't want him to be bored, not doing anything, then what results am I going to get? Because they're not going to be good results. They're likely to be him going, "Oh, do I have to?" Him doing it because I'm cajoling him into doing it, putting pressure into training, taking out the fun, and he's likely to not perform as well as he can, and therefore I'm then going to get frustrated. And I'll likely label that as, "Oh, well, my dog's bored, he's done it twice," rather than saying, actually, my dog's stamina levels are quite low, we only do it twice, and then we stop and pause for a little while. Another thing is when we do something, I'd say a little bit more like my other dog, where we do something over and over and over and over again, and then it starts to get a little bit either really good or really shoddy, because we have, again, excitement built in. My excitable dog, he will do something 1,000 times, but after so many, it starts to get a little bit less quality. And again, you could say, "Oh, he's done this 500 times, he's bored now." But is he bored? I don't think so. I think he wants to carry on going. But I recognise his work gets shoddy and he doesn't put as much effort into things, and he starts getting a little bit overexcited and will start not doing things as well. So again, he's not bored of doing it. It's managing his emotions. It's no different to your dog with less stamina. We do it a few times. We notice when his performance is dipping slightly. So say he does it 10 times beautifully and then the 11th time it's a little bit rubbish. We go, "Cool, you can do 10, then you need a little bit of a break. Then we'll do 10 more, then you need a little bit of a break." Recognising underlying emotions and what else is going on in the bigger picture is so much more important than just labelling a dog as being bored, because there is so much more happening. And I think a lot of the time we do forget that dogs have not the same, but they have similar emotions to us. They get overwhelmed, they get tired, they get frustrated. And yes, it may look like it's boredom, but it's actually them trying to communicate with us. And one of in everything in training, the most important thing, no matter what you are doing, is learning to understand how your dog communicates. It's something I advocate so much, yet it's something that people don't seem to want to do, and it's one of those infuriating things. But understanding what your dog is trying to say to you, one, they're going to feel heard. And if your dog feels heard, they are going to be happier. You're going to get more success from them. But equally, you are going to be able to read them and communicate better. If we have that understanding of what they're saying, we can then know how they're feeling, know where their thoughts are going, know what's likely to happen and predict what's going to happen next. So learning to read that communication and not just see it as annoyance, not see it as, oh, well, they're bored, not see it as they're trying to, they're just being silly. They know how to do this, but they're just not doing it. Understanding all of these things means that your relationship is deeper with your dog, and therefore you will get better success because you're taking the time to stop and learn about them and learn to communicate. So next time you think, no matter what you're doing, whether it's at home, whether it's on a walk, whether it's actually in a training class, and you think, I think my dog's a bit bored, just stop and ask yourself, are they actually bored, or is there something else going on? And if you're not sure, ask someone. If you're in a training class, ask and say, to me, it looks like my dog is bored. Is there something else going on that I'm missing, or am I right? Are they bored? And then we can obviously help. The only time I say that I tend to see dogs truly being bored is when they're young puppies at home and they've got boundless energy and they don't know what to do with it. Or when you've got a busy breed and they don't know what to do with it. That's when you're likely to see boredom. But it's common in younger dogs or dogs that haven't had their needs met. So that's the only time you tend to see boredom. It's not in a dog training class. Most of the time in dog training, it is about overwhelm and emotions kicking in rather than actual boredom, because there is plenty to do. They are just needing you to realise what they are needing and when they need that break, because we tend to think that breaks aren't important, but breaks are incredibly important. Think of it like us. We have a tea break, maybe not so often, but obviously our lives, we can work for a little bit longer. We might do an hour's work and then have a cup of tea. Your dog may work for 3 or 4 minutes and then need a minute's break, then work for a few more minutes, then have a couple of minutes break. So it's shorter bursts of work and shorter bursts of break time. And that will help them to manage emotions, to have that thinking time in between exercises or in between the things you're doing with them, and enable them to come down from any excitement or any overwhelm of emotions they're having, get into a little bit more of a thinking state, and then revisit your training. So next time you think my dog's bored, just stop and ask yourself, is it actually this? Am I bored of what we're doing? Or is my dog not performing the way I would like? And I'm using that phrase, my dog is bored, as almost an excuse for why they're not doing what you want them to do. Because I think we often try and do that. We often try and put an excuse in. Oh, my dog's doing this because we feel a little bit embarrassed by it. But there is absolutely no need to feel embarrassed by the fact that your dog doesn't want to do something right now or isn't doing it as well as you would like, because that is their prerogative to say, hey, need a break, thanks. Hopefully this has been useful, especially if you have considered the fact that your dog may be bored while they are training. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop it in the comments or to jump into our Facebook group, Potter Paws Dog Training Community, and ask some questions. Or, of course, find us on Instagram or Facebook at Potter Paws and start a conversation with us. We would love to continue the conversation. Have a great week, and I will see you very soon. Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.